The stars of the American reality television series American Chopper, Paul Teutul Jr., came into the spotlight when he started appearing on Discovery Channel's show in 2002, along with his father and brother. So, do you want to know what happened to Paul Teutul Jr.? Well then, you're at the right place, as today, we're here with all the details for you. So let's get into it. When American Choppers first aired on Discovery in 2003, it focused on the Teutul's, who worked together at their store, Orange County Choppers, in upstate New York. The father and son team was popular for its confrontational styles, and the two were often seen fighting on camera. However, in 2008, an explosive argument led to Paul Jr.'s termination, prompting him to open a competing store called Paul Jr. Designs. It all happened because Paul Jr. was late for work too many times, and Paul Sr. said it's been one thing after another with him, and he is not going to let him get away with it anymore. He told his son that he was so sick of taking care of him. He said that it was 7:45 and everybody was here at 7 o'clock, and he was walking in at 7:45. Paul Jr. defended himself and told his father that he does not really care because at the end of the day, you know what matters is that everything is done around there. Every bike that needs to be built gets done. Everyone is working around the clock. He said that they were partners, and if he wasn't involved here, this place would be ruined and it would burn to the ground. After Paul Jr. knocked over a chair in his father's office, Paul Sr. fired his son in front of all his employees. Paul Sr. even went so far as to sue his son to acquire his 20% stake in the Orange County Choppers business. However, he ended up losing the lawsuit. After their fight, the reality series was canceled, but it wasn't long before a spin-off, American Chopper Sr. vs. Jr. got the green light in 2010. However, that series was short-lived and was canceled in 2012. The Teutul's decided to put an end to their battered relationship. In the years that followed, the father-son duo rarely spoke, and Paul Jr. even wrote a memoir in which he called his father something of a monster. The continuous disagreements, the tensions, and their disparate taste when designing the most spectacular chopper motorcycles on the planet caused the Teutul's professional paths to separate. It wasn't until 2018 that they finally put their differences aside and worked on their relationship. Father and son opted for a personal and television distance that lasted for almost 5 years, and that led them to reflect on everything that happened in the past. For years, they had remained far from the small screen, separated by differences that seemed irreconcilable, and developing their own businesses independently. But their passion for motorcycles had been greater than their misunderstandings and had reunited Paul Teutul, father and son, in a new season of the legendary series American Chopper in 2018. Paul Sr. told the New York Post that they sat down and talked about it. He said that things happen. People have their own way, what they believe and how they perceive it, and his son perceived it one way and he perceived it another way. So in the end, who wins that argument? No one. Although known for his detailed motorcycle designs and builds, Paul Teutul Jr. was not always a fan of motorcycles. As a child, Teutul was surrounded by motorcycles because of his father, but he was more curious about building things in general, apart from playing sports. His love for motorcycles didn't start until his teens, around the age of 18, when he got his first motorcycle. You can make a lot of money in the fields of motorcycle design and reality television, and lucky for Paul Teutul Jr. that he's successful in both fields, co-founding Orange County Chopper with his father in 1999 and then co-starring on American Chopper 2, he also has his own business named Paul Jr. Designs. However, he had to wait a year to build any bikes due to a 1-year non-compete clause. This is why he also got to work on other projects, including designing a dog park in Montgomery, New York, and performing a top-to-bottom overhaul of Coleman's Road Trip Grill, making the metal meat cooker look a lot like a sweet chopper. According to the company's marketing manager, this was the first time they had hired an outside celebrity designer. All these ventures bring Paul Jr.'s net worth to a cool $2 million, according to Celebrity Net Worth. Paul Teutul Jr. now also hosts his own podcast called the Paul Jr. Podcast, in which he talks about charities, businesses, hobbies, and American Chopper. Click on one of these 2 videos on your screen right now. We'll catch you guys in the next one.